Hello everybody, going to be talking to you today about the game Sweet Lily Dreams. This is an RPG game that was released in May of this year by Rose Portal Games. The publisher was the same publisher that makes the RPG Maker Studio, so I'm going to assume the game was made using a heavily modified version of RPG Maker. The reason I say heavily modified is this game has quite a few puzzle elements in it that are beyond what you would find with most games that are created using RPG Maker. Let's go ahead and get started talking about the story. The story begins with the main character, Lily, a young girl, falling asleep while waiting on her daddy to come home. She's pulled into a magical dream world where the game really begins. Lily is teleported to a magical, I don't know, it looks like a stained glass window, where she must choose between 4 different magical powers for the game. The Snowflake of Cold, the Heart of Fire, Flower of Water, and the Star of Thunder. I like the name of the spells because those are spells that a child would name. It's not the standard Flame Strike or Blizzard spells. It's something that would be appropriate for a young girl to pick. After she picks which power she wants, she's taken to another level where, again, she must pick a garment this time to choose between the same standard magical powers. This time I believe the garment she picks actually reflects what resistances she'll have. After she selects those, an unwinnable boss fight begins. Lily is attacked by her bed. The bed itself looks like something out of a nightmare, which is appropriate, and Lily is thrown into the fight. It's not clear whether or not she wins the fight because as soon as the boss attacks, the screen goes blank and Lily wakes up to find herself trapped on the bottom of a boat. This is where one of the key aspects of the game kicks in that it offers a puzzle selection to it. So Lily's trapped underneath and she's got to figure out how to open the door to this boat so she can get to the top level. And I didn't even realize in RPG Maker you could do something like this. So this was a nice surprise to find out that this isn't just going around talking to people in boss battles. There are puzzle elements to the game. So, puzzle gets solved, Lily finds her way to the top of the boat, and this giant red dragon attacks, and Lily is joined by 2 guardians, who she finds out their names are Faith and Curly. A little later in the story she finds out why they're there, what's going on, but for right now, all I need to know is that a boss fight on the boat occurs. I think the game looks gorgeous as far as this setup, and I'll try and include the clip in the video as I'm talking about it. From there, I don't want to spoil any specifics of the story, but just to give you a brief overview of the plot, Lily has been pulled into the land of dreams, and that's a bad thing. She's not supposed to be able to talk and interact with all these different people. There is a powerful dream world disturbing the balance between good and evil. The I'm going to mess this up. It's not Illuminati, it's the Illumanti. That's what I'm going to call it. The Illumanti, which so far have been Lily's friends, are responsible for keeping the dream worlds in balance. The bad guy of the story, or at least that's what we're told up to this point, are the Phobius. And they are the ones responsible for releasing the problematic dream world. Not too far into the story, it starts to suggest that maybe the Phobius aren't the bad guys, and maybe the Illumanti aren't necessarily the good guys that they appear to be. However, poor Lily is stuck on the side of the Illumanti, and from there the game really picks up the pace, and I won't spoil any more of the story beyond that. Just to say that for right now, the overall plot is who are the good guys, who are the bad guys, and how is Lily going to get free from this dream world. I found Lily to be a unique choice for the story protagonist. Because she's a child and she knows she's dreaming, she can easily go along with the plot so far and accept what's going on. I don't think an adult would have been an appropriate character for this, because an adult would have been, hey, what's going on, would have been too questioning, whereas it's much easier to accept that a child would very easily accept what's going on in the story. As far as the game mechanics, this is very standard fare for an RPG game, except for the additional puzzle elements the game adds in, which are very nice, and I'll talk about them later. But let's talk about battles. There aren't random encounters in the game. When you're walking around on the overworld map, you can actually see the monsters moving around. and the monsters can see you, and generally as soon as you get close to them, they will make a beeline right for you. So in theory, you can work your way around the different encounters, but I found that for most of the battles, the field is so enclosed that you can't get around the battle. The enemy will eventually just make a straight line to you. So there aren't truly random encounters, but many of the encounters just can't be skipped. Once a monster runs into you, the screen fades out and you go into the battle screen. If you've ever played any of the early Final Fantasy games, you'll be very familiar with this. You have your characters on the left-hand side and the enemies on the right-hand side. When the battles start, you pick what action you want each of your characters to take, and then after you've selected each of your actions, the game takes over and it plays out. You don't know the order in which things are going to occur, so you may have someone heal another person, but you don't necessarily know if you're going to get that heal in time before one of the monsters hits you. Overall, it's simple but enjoyable. I liked it, but I did encounter a few times some monsters that would cast blind on you. And the issue would be that the monsters that cast blind are themselves very hard to hit, and blind would hit almost every time. So there was one battle in particular that took about 5 minutes simply because I just couldn't hit anything. There were items that you can purchase to cure blind, but you use it on one person, the very next turn the monster casts blind again, and overall got to be very difficult to finish that fight. I don't know how often that will come up in the game, and in the couple hours I played it, it only happened once, but hopefully that is not something that occurs later in the game. When you do reach a boss battle, they do a good job of making the boss itself look pretty epic on the right-hand side, so you can tell this is not just a standard fare monster. Some real time was put into making this character art look very nice, and I appreciate that in a game. As far as the dungeons themselves, they do have some unique aspects. There are orbs to collect in the game. There are health orbs that are green, and as you're walking around in the dungeon, if you touch those, you obviously get healed, but the game does hint that there are rewards for not grabbing too many of those health orbs. I don't know what the rewards are. In the dungeons I encountered, I ended up grabbing maybe about half, and I don't think I ever saw a specific reward on it. But it is nice to know there's a goal there for not using those. There are also yellow orbs that count as gold that you can use for currency. Dungeons themselves are pretty standard fare. You've got to go around, you've got to figure out how to unlock the different doors. One bad aspect I found was that because of the art style, there were a few times where a path looked like it was blocked because there would be a rock in the way, and I would think I couldn't get through there, and I would go another path, and come to find out that was just that art asset made it look like you couldn't take the path, when in reality I could have gone right through it. That does happen a few times where you're not sure if you're really supposed to be able to progress or not. And then there was once or twice where there were some doors that blended in as walls very well, and they weren't hidden doors, they were just part of the regular dungeon, so it took a little time to figure that out. Overall, not a big deal, just something I thought I'd mention. There is not a map for dungeons, and I appreciate that is typical fare for these RPG games, but I'm spoiled now to maps in my games, so I would have liked to have seen a map included, but I can't really fault the game for not including one. Let's talk a little bit about the puzzles, and I will go ahead and put out there that I'm not a huge fan of puzzle games, just because I am so completely horrible at them that they make me feel like I'm stupid. So if you enjoy puzzles in a game, then you certainly will enjoy this aspect of the game more than I did, but I have to give the developer credit for taking the time to put this in. Some examples of the puzzles. The first one you run into is when Lily is stuck on the bottom of the boat. It's not very difficult at all, but it does do a good job of introducing the mechanics of the game. A little later on, there's a puzzle where you have to line up different patterns on a round artifact, and that one took me a little while to figure out just because, like I said, I'm an idiot. I'm sure it would take most people 2 minutes to figure out, but I enjoyed that puzzle, and it felt rewarding when I did finish it. The third puzzle I remember encountering was one that you're in a room, and you go in there, and it's actually a series of, I believe, about 12 different rooms. And you find a control panel, and when you find that control panel, you can slide around the way the rooms are lined up, and you've got to slide it around to find 3 different keys in the room. And if I included the entire amount of time in this video that I spent trying to solve that, it would probably be a 20-minute video before it was done. I could not figure it out. And to the game's credit, they actually included the option to buy your way out for 100 gold. And I think that is just an awesome choice that they gave there, because if they did not have that ability, I probably would have set the game down right there and said I'm done with it. So if you like puzzles, you'll like this game, I'm sure. If you're not too big on puzzles, just be aware that it seems like the difficulty on these ramp up pretty quick. I don't know if puzzles later down in the game can have the same option to buy out and pass, but if they don't, that could be frustrating to someone who doesn't enjoy puzzles. When traveling the overworld of this game, which is to say when you're not in dungeons, there are a lot of details that went into making this game look very nice. For example, when you end up on a island, or stranded from the boat, I should say, the land itself has snowflakes in the background. It has wildlife wandering around. The terrain itself isn't just rocks copied and pasted over and over. There's flowers, there's grass, there's rocks. And what I'm trying to say here is that I don't think this is the first RPG game that this developer has released, and it really shows in the details that they put on the overworld. The town, when you make it there, it's got a really nice pink purple color palette to it, and it's got butterflies flying around, and it all ties together very nicely, and I was really impressed by that. This game also offers quite a deep variety of details you can go into. For example, once you finally get to the town, you find out that the fairy godmother of the town has given you a room, and you can customize this room with furniture. And from exploring the town, I found you can buy different furniture using currency. And well, that in itself is kind of neat. It actually affects what resistances that your character can have, and it can also affect different stats. So you've got this RPG game that already has puzzle elements to it, and now it has almost a Animal Crossing aspect to it. The way you design your room grants different benefits. It may increase defense, it may increase magic power. I didn't get too deep into it. I tried out one combination, and I think it gave me more health, but it's nice that you have the option to go into that detail of it. There's also a crafting system involved, and I love games with crafting system, especially the Star Ocean games. I didn't get too deep into the crafting system here. In about 2.5 hours of gameplay, I think I finally reached the first scroll that I could craft, and that was a lightning bolt scroll. Once you gather the items to create the scroll, you can then teach the magic spell to someone in your party. The magic items themselves, or excuse me, the crafting items themselves are found from the different enemies that you defeat going throughout the game, and they're also found laying on the ground in dungeons. I didn't get too deep into the system, but I could potentially see that being a very nice time sink later on in the game, trying to customize the spells you want and different things like that. So again, it's surprising how much depth there is to this game. So this review has gone on a lot longer than I thought it would, which is a testament to the fact that, yes, I like this game. I'm surprised by all the different aspects of gameplay. You've got the puzzles, you've got the crafting system, you've got the furniture design system of all things, and I would highly encourage you to check this game out. It's available on Steam. I believe I actually picked my game up in a bundle of some sort that I purchased a while back, and just happened to notice the game showed up on Steam and wanted to give it a shot. This is a well-designed game. If you like RPGs, I would highly suggest you check it out.